Hi and welcome everybody to the fourth instalment of our Exit Right series. My name is Malin Svanberg-Larsen. I'm a partner in the corporate team at Freight, and together with our other very kind and generous sponsors, Oxford Trust, Eagle Labs and Oxford Innovation, we are thrilled to welcome you back tonight. The topic for today is marketing and branding, and with us we've got two fabulous speakers. We've got Sue and Warren, and I've been told that no further introduction is needed. So over to Sue.
For inviting us. The topic and was from talk about marketing, and then Warren's going to give you insight into brand. And all of this will be starting with the end in mind, so it'll all be focused on what marketing do you need to do to get the right exit at the end. Those of you who don't know me, my name's Su Copeland. I over 30 years working in marketing, and I run a business called Priddy Marketing, which provides marketing strategy and implementation support for business owners who generally come to me saying, can you help us with more? Help us with more leads, more business, more investment, more clients, more partners. Or can you help us getting a bit of focus in place and putting some systems and processes in place? This will become more relevant in a minute as we go through the presentation. Also a connector and advisor. Some of you may know me through the STEM Advisors Hub, which is a place where I specialise working with scientists, technologists, engineers and manufacturers, and the hub is specifically for people who have some interest in those sectors. And also connector and providing advice to those. I thought, it is marketing, because if you go out and ask people what they think marketing is, you'll get lots of different definitions. And, some people in terms of lead generation, business development, others will come to me and talk in terms of PR, and others, we just need you to use that. Oh, okay. Others will come and ask in terms of PR. Others will talk in terms of commercial, and so there's a lot of confusion often around the term marketing, and everyone has their own definition. And I got Paul Esri sitting in the audience here as well, and we collude a lot in terms of marketing and sales. They get confused, and they should absolutely link with each other. So. If you go to the Chartered Institute of Marketing, there's a definition on there. I've been in the Chartered Institute of Marketing for many years. I still need to pick up a card to remind myself how they describe marketing, which is the management process which identifies, anticipates and supplies customer requirements efficiently and profitably. Which is all well and good, but I think it's not terribly helpful when you're trying to work out how's that different to sales, and what's actually going on there. So I'm all about making things as simple as possible. So a good place to start when you're trying to work out what do we mean by marketing as opposed to the sales function or the customer service function, and they should all function together, is to think of it in terms of marketing is about attracting people towards you. Sales is about encouraging them to take action. If you start with that as a premise, it makes it easier for you to distinguish what's going on in the different functions. But there's more to it than that, because you can attract all the people towards you, but they can be the wrong people. You can spend all of your time providing lots of great leads for the business that are no help to the business. They're not profitable, they're taking up too much time to fulfill. So I would always add to that it needs to be the right audience. It's all about attracting, good sales marketing is all about attracting the right audience towards you and making sure that they're taking the right action. It's the right people doing it. So if we move on from there, you can ask me questions on that later. If anyone's got any burning questions around that or doesn't agree, I'm happy to be challenged. If we look now at the business process, now this whole series of talks is about how do we get to a good exit. So we've worked backwards from the exit through to this stage now. We've done sales and business development at the last one. Now we're looking at marketing. It's useful to think marketing changes as you go through your business stages. And there's some really important intersections where you need to think differently about the marketing that you're doing. In the beginning, when we start up a business, the answer's yes, I'll do it. I'll do anything. You'll do anything to try and get the business to come in. And marketing's often thought of as being a logo, a business card, although that's less common these days, basic website, some basic collateral. I can see Warren rolling his eyes. He doesn't like that stage. It's all about saying yes and getting going, and there's a lot of energy and it's exciting, and marketing might be a little bit in the business plan, but it's not really a big consideration. It just happens along the way. But there comes a point in every business growth, if you're going to grow, when that's no longer good enough. We'll call it loosely the grow stage. And this is the point where, and it's usually the boss or the senior team are feeling a bit of overwhelm. The business has grown, and what that looks like will be different to different businesses. So for some it will be, we're turning over $1 million turnover now. Or for some it might be, we've now got a dozen employees. For others it might be nothing to do with turnover and numbers, but just the activity, the amount of activities that are coming through. But what will be common is that the business owner is feeling very overwhelmed, that not quite confident that the marketing we're doing is working, not sure what's working, feeling like we might be wasting a bit of money and time, and is looking for help with a bit of focus. And the sort of things that come up here is, give me a plan, tell me what to do, tell me what not to do. That's as important as what I do. What things should we be focusing on? And in terms of brand, it's what is it, that logo is no longer doing the job. We've changed. It doesn't look as professional as we'd like it to look. It doesn't necessarily reflect where we are now. So let's really revisit that brand and be very professional. That's the point where you're calling people like Warren and myself, or you might have the skills in-house. But at that point, there's a really key juncture where you need to rethink your marketing and come up with a plan separate or in addition to the business plan. It doesn't have to be long. In fact, it's better if it's short. But you need to be clear and then communicate that to the rest of the business, because putting something in a drawer and saying this is what we're going to do but not communicating it and not having everyone agreeing with you is a waste of time. And then the next stage, scale. Right, so if you really are serious about growing and you're serious about exiting, you probably want to scale the business. And in order to scale, it's looking at what marketing's working and what isn't, but it's more about putting systems and processes in place. Because at this point, definitely the owner should not be doing too much of the marketing. He should be relying on people to do it for him or her, and be very confident that things are happening. But it's more than that, because a good exit is about putting enough value in your business, more value in your business, so that you get more money for it when you exit. So where's the value in the business? Well, it's definitely going to be in your customer base and your customer data. And if you're not consistently gathering that data properly, then you've lost value. It's also going to be in things like what's been automated in order so that we can focus on the high value activities so we can delight our customers. So you probably have a certain amount of marketing automation, but it needs to work seamlessly throughout the organisation with the sales, with the customer service. So at that point, it's not so much about looking professional, it's more about being consistent, because consistency is what sells. The business will run without the owner. That's what gives the value at the end. So if we look first of all at those two stages, the get professional stage, this is a process I go through with most of my clients. Some of them have a lot of this stuff, some of them are starting from beginning, but always we need to relook at it and think, right, okay, where are we at this point in time? We benchmark. And who do we want to be our ideal client now? You might call them avatar, profile, I don't care what you call it, but you need to really think carefully about your target market and make sure that you are getting the message right to that target market, that you are really understanding them. There's an example I had working with a client a while ago in IT services. And we'd gone through this exercise of really getting clear on the target market. And if you do it really well, you give them a name and you communicate it through the rest of the company. So let's say this ideal client was called Bob. And we were really clear that the ideal client, Bob, would be somebody who'd value what the business offered. And it wasn't just a commodity-based IT service. It was all about all the added value and building a relationship with the client and the client being open and so on. And what happened was that they had an opportunity for a big project. But unfortunately, the boss wasn't able to be there to speak to the prospect on the given day that had been arranged. So his second in command went into the meeting, and I sat in on the meeting to give him moral support. And almost within the first sentence, probably about the second sentence, this prospect said, well, of course, IT for us is a commodity. So we're expecting da-di-da-di-da-di-da. Now, the power of the work that we'd done before, knowing who the ideal client was for this particular company, was that after the meeting, the number 2, Rob, he was able to ring his boss and go, do you know what? This is not going to work for us. He's not Bob. And the boss went, why is that? He said, well, he called IT a commodity. Okay, understand, no problem. Now, if we hadn't done that work together, what would have happened is they'd have spent a good couple of weeks agonising over whether or not to go for the contract, spending, when you do a tender for a large contract, it takes a minimum of a couple of weeks, doesn't it? It's a big undertaking. So they didn't have to do any of that. The decision was made and they moved on. So that saved a lot of time, it saved a lot of resource, it meant they could focus on who was an ideal client. And the more that you understand your ideal client, your marketing reveals itself, because if you understand what Bob is after, you can understand his pains and his trigger points, and you can change the messaging to speak directly to Bob. It's one of the biggest mistakes in marketing, and it's something that is often a test bed for me, is when I'm meeting people, who's your market? And if people say to me, oh, it's so brilliant, everybody, I know they've got a problem with their marketing. Because selling to everybody for a start is very expensive. And secondly, no message caters to everybody. So you need to be more laser focused on who it is you want to attract as a client. And in terms of route to market, another thing people say to me is, oh gosh, should we be on LinkedIn? Or I think we ought to be doing a bit more on LinkedIn. Or what do you think about Facebook? I don't know, till I understand your target market and what they think about it, I can't answer that question. We need a new website. Why? Is it just because it doesn't look nice to you, or is there a reason in terms of how you're attracting clients to you? So it's thinking that through, and once you've got this nailed and just written in a very simple plan, doesn't have to be anything too fancy, it makes decision making much, much easier, and it is much more cost effective and efficient. So the lesson from this, I would say, is just focus. When you're at this growth stage, you need focus. Scale. I think this illustrates the point quite well. If you are going to grow your business, and say you happen to be a manufacturer of cars, and you can see on that slide there's a majority of white cars, and that's because the market's demanding white cars. Never used to be the worst car choice colour, but there you go, it is now, white cars. And this is the other thing, the market keeps changing, so you have to keep asking the market what it wants. So if somebody on the production line suddenly decided that they were going to start, I'm going to go with a pink car with yellow flowers on it. And somebody in marketing started thinking, do you know what, let's do something that looks more like a bus. And somebody else on the production line started to think, do you know what, I'm not even sure they need a steering wheel. That lack of consistency, what would result, the mismatched messages and the fact that you've got extra things happening in the process will really undermine client confidence, customer confidence, and affect the value of your business. So the reason that these larger businesses succeed is because it's the same thing being churned out every time and they can rely on it. And that's in a production line. And you have to think of the same in terms of your marketing. Having systems and processes so you know what's getting pulled out at the end, and you can rely on it to be consistent. And I thought it would be useful just to leave you with this before I pass on to Warren. The other question I get asked a lot is how much? It's a fairly reasonable question. And the glib answer you'll get from anybody offering services usually is, well, how long's a piece of string? But this, I think, is a useful way of thinking about your budget. You have to have sales and marketing, otherwise you don't have a business. There comes a point where you have to be doing some of this stuff, even if you started up the business initially on referral. And there are different sorts of budgets available. So when you start up, when I was talking about the logo, the investment might just be your time. You might go to Canva or, Fiverr and pay 20 quid for a logo or something like that. You go and get something as cheap as chips. And you might need a basic website. So you might go to, GoDaddy and create a templated one for yourself, or you might go and create a simple business card. And there's all sorts of cheap options which are fine at that point. So if you were to think about what you're investing, a bicycle is fine. If it was a vehicle, in terms of your marketing, all you need is a bike just to get you off the ground, get you moving. The type of fuel that you'd need for it might just be your time, but you do have to invest that in there, and you'd need to keep checking it through the year. So there's the setup cost, and then there's the investment cost. The easiest way of thinking about it actually is with a website. So if you've created your website and you've paid your few £100 on one of the template sites to do it, you've still then got to pay a monthly fee to host it. And there may also be some extra costs just to check that it's not falling over, but you don't need to invest too much. And the person who looks after that, because there's the cost of the person looking after it, just needs to be a competent cyclist. So it could be you, or it could be somebody else in your team who's able to do this. As your business grows, and remember those different boxes that I showed you, so the grow phase, and having a competent cyclist is no longer sufficient. Maybe you need a family car now as your vehicle. You need something a bit more robust. So everyone knows that a family car needs fuel in it. You can't get away from it now. You've definitely got monthly costs. So if we took that website as an example, maybe now this family car includes an e-commerce site, and you build an e-commerce site onto your website, which requires more maintenance, requires more management. Maybe there's more content going on your site. So now the sort of person that you need to drive it needs to be competent in that stage of development. Now, if you're going to escalate and really go for it, maybe you want to 100% grow the business, or you're at that scale stage and you've really got to put a lot of effort in to get it over the line in 18 months to exit, whatever it is you're looking for. A racing car is probably what you want. So you need racing car fuel. There's no good putting the old petrol in. So maybe, if I take that website analogy, we've gone from basic site to e-commerce site. Now maybe what we're looking at is something that has a really special software behind the scenes that's managing the business, a bit of that automation that I was talking about. The website is almost an interface to all the critical stuff that's happening behind it. And because it's so critical, the security is going to need to be stronger. And it's probably the way that you're looking after customers. So it's much more critical, ongoing fuel costs that are going into this. And you need somebody who's expert in that. So of course you need a racing driver. So in terms of your budget, what I would suggest is think about it in terms of what's good enough at whatever stage you're at, but don't mismatch it and try and get a racing car going on pedal power. And also your cost will never just be the investment cost, it's the people and it's the keeping it going all through the year cost. So don't start something that you can't maintain. So just to summarise before I hand over to Warren, hopefully this has been useful. In terms of marketing, easiest way of thinking about it is about attracting. One of those is brand, which was a very significant part of it, which Warren is going to share with you. In terms of stages of growth, after being seen, the most important one is be professional. That's the time to call in ourselves, or if you've got the resource in-house, use it properly. Whether you employ people, it doesn't matter, but at that point your thinking needs to change. And also when you get to the scale stage, hopefully this piece is working properly, the professional side, but now you need to be thinking about what do we need to do in order to be consistent to get that marketing machine working really well. And match your investment to your ambition. I went for questions at the end. If anybody wants to have a chat with me afterwards, Wendy and Malin will be sharing my details, offer complimentary, no obligation one-to-ones if anyone wants to have a chat about that. Okay, thanks for your attention. I'm going to pass you over now to Warren, and I'm not sure what's happening with this microphone. Do you want to switch it off?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Warren Brown from Brown Creative, and for the last 25 years I've been making businesses look visually glorious across all media. So I help businesses express themselves to gain a commercial advantage in their desired marketplace. So I'm a brand designer. I design for everybody, but my niche is science, technology and innovation. This is a place that I sit quite nicely. I like to think I bring right brain creativity to left brain logical thinkers. So that's the way I work. So, sorry, just my introduction to me. So, what is a brand? A brand is invisible. It's intangible. It's a layer of meaning that is completely controlled by your audience. It's something that your audience sees in your business, and it's a desired perception which is formed in the hearts and the minds of your clients. When enough people come together with the same opinion about your business, then you're said to have a brand. So effectively, it's an emotional connection for your business and your clients. It's how you make your customers feel. So ideally, it's a brand, as this says, the brand isn't what you say it is, it's what your client determines that it is. A brand is your story, your reputation, how you want to be seen, how you want to be perceived in the world. And as part of that, it has a set of values which your business instill, which then need to be reflected across the board to your clients. It's a promise of quality and satisfaction each and every time that your audience interact with you. So why does it matter? As I said before, it's an emotional attachment to your audience. It adds a huge amount of value when your audience get a good feeling for you. It's a tribal bond which gives customer loyalty. When customers see and value what you do, it helps customers understand, to like, know and trust your business. It also boosts pride and confidence in all that interact with you, both inside an organisation and outside of an organisation. So it's a way of standing out, to be different inside of the marketplace and against your competition. It helps you be what you want to be. So as, last time when on Paul spoke last time, he gave a brilliant analogy about Wendy and the dress, about it's less about what it has and what it does. That's completely true, because many brands offer the same sort of features as others, but it's and it is about more you know, it is about a feeling, it's how it makes you feel, but adding on to that, it reflects who you are. So there's certain things that in how you want to be seen. So it reflects your personality in the choices of brands that you choose to interact with. So what is a brand identity? So a brand identity is visible. It's the visible assets that reflect the brand's personality. It's the tools that reflect personality and the character of a brand. So the visual elements that create the brand image, logo, colour, typography, designed assets, website, these are all part and parcel of reflecting your business character. It's a recognition of a business reputation that you know what you're getting each and every time that people interact with you. But remember, a logo itself is not your brand. That is just a small, condensed, clever symbol which represents the face of your business. So why does brand identity matter? It's the visual attraction. It gives the wow factor. It's the first impression where either through long or short term, people make decisions on you based on how you look. So your brand identity aims to delight and excite people, to get them to interact with you in the first instance. So when I go back to the point about your audience make a decision on you, well, the brand identity is something that helps them, helps you influence them to buy into your product or service. It gives brand identity across the board, across all your communication, gives clarity to all your messages, and it gives a professional and unified look from the start of a small piece of collateral all the way through. If the identity flows, then people get a good feeling for know what they're getting. Consistency. Consistency across the board, again, part of the visual appeal is that everything looks unified as part of that professional look and feel. Again, it adds to the message of you know what you're getting. All of these points make a business very valuable at an exiting stage. Once this is developed over the lifetime of a business, then when it comes to exit stage, people know about the business, know what they're getting, know what the brand stands for, and the identity of the brand is reflecting all that. So the discovery process, I sit down with a client and go through deep and meaningful questions which bring greater meaning to the surface. So I ask lots of questions: who you are, what you do, why you do it, which is a big one, what you want to achieve, and who you want to attract. So the needs, desires, and aspirations of a customer come to the fore, the pain points of a customer come to the fore, and it helps customers also reflect on their business in order to make improvements at that particular time and improvements moving forward. So they're questions like your proposition, your purpose, your vision, mission, customers, your position, value, personality, message, and tone of voice. So they're not just questions like, how big do you want it? What colour do you want it? They get to the absolute crux of a business, underneath the hood of a business, and get to the essence of a business to unearth the questions and the meaning, which I then have to interpret in a visual manner. So my design process, it has a number of stages. It starts with the discovery session, where hopefully all of these questions are answered. Okay, and then there's a degree of various degrees in between. So there's concept stages, concept developments, I start as part of the concept stage. I do use lots of words, so I do word mapping, because words then spark off clever thinking and how I can link one thing to another, and they also bring forth ideas that the client may not have thought of but fit the brief perfectly. So this shows 3 stages. I do the concept stages, so scribbles basically. Those scribbles are then developed to a middle stage where I present visuals to the client. When I'm presenting the visuals, I try to go from mild to wild. So I tend to offer only three, sometimes five excessive, 3 ideas. Otherwise, it gives the client too many choices, creative overload. I like this from this, that from that, which again tends to skew the strength of my ideas. So from once there might be a couple of stages in between where I'm refining those ideas in the middle. I mean, I've shown quite a few ideas there, but they would have been refined down to 3 to 5 before they went to the client. And then the client would say, yes, I like that one. No, I don't like that one. That nails it. And then it's moved through to design delivery. So it's applied across the board to all kinds of collateral or whatever they need at that particular time. And then ongoing process is client feedback and brand guardianship. So if they know, like, and trust me, which all my clients do, they come back to me knowing that they want X, Y, Z, and it's going to look the part all the way through. It's going to be consistent and it's going to have a great feel all the way through. So that's when my clients come back to me, and when a repeat revenue, ongoing brand guardianship relationship is built. So I'm just going to show you a few examples here and just give you a broad explanation. Some of these are obviously not science and technology. This was a couple of friends that got together. They both suffered from mental health problems, and they decided they wanted to do something about it. And initially it was t-shirts, and it went on to make an app, a connection app to people. So this was called Brave Face. And this was the simple icon logo that I designed for them, that went across all kinds of different collateral and digital assets as well. So obviously they've got the smiley face there. This is the entrepreneur's mentor. He's a local guy. People might know Mike Foster. Again, this went through the stages, and it was this logo came from support struts and support pillars. So this is what he does in his business. He builds a supporting structure. And it looks, obviously, I'm using the horizontals and the 3 horizontals and the 3 verticals of the E and the M. So this is one of all my designs I try and make simple and which garners a second glance. So you look at it and think, oh yeah, and oh yeah. So the logos are meant to stick in the mind, be memorable, hopefully be clever. So this is what I aim for, but to keep them as simple as possible so that they're versatile across all kinds of different medium and touch points. This is one I finished recently. This is a neuroscience data company locally in Oxford. Their pain points were they had a logo to start with. The colours were too bright. It had too soft a feel. It had a very charity feel. So all this was unearthed in the discovery process, and they had, part of the brief was they had no icon because of today's technology. Everything needs to be iconized and brought down to its simplest form, which the previous logo didn't have. It was just purely typography, which didn't have too much of a meaning for them. So I scribbled away and came up with the neurocell, which forms the A again. So it gives them this device which they can use across the board. Married it up with the typography, which was similar, which gave a reflection and a flavour to their previous band with the missing A bars across the A. But they were over the moon with it. Changed the colours as well, so this worked well for them. So in summary. An amazing brand and its identity and its rock solid marketing can be completely transformational for a business. However intangible you may think of it at various stages, on a subconscious level, if it's good, it sticks in the mind and it stays there. Marketing and branding go hand in hand. Developing a business, they are part and parcel of the same. As you probably heard Sue mention that she does a lot of discovery sessions and she gets under the skin of a business. I do the same, but with a visual bias. So there's things that I unearth or I ask questions of the client, which Sue may not, which may help her, and vice versa. There's marketing questions that Sue may ask, which I may not have thought of, which then help me from the visual treatment. So that's how it's all part and parcel of the same thing, but they're very, very different. So effort to keep customers is marketing. It's the doing. It's the doing. It's the workhorse behind a brand. But the effort to keep customers is the branding, and that's the invisible being. That's the being that is the personality of your brand. So, to sum it up, marketing and branding are very, very valuable and powerful assets during the lifetime of a business, especially at exit. So, thank you very much for listening to me. That's very kind. I'm offering, like Sue, to give some of my time away to anybody who's interested in talking to me, that have got any questions about their brand, or want my opinions on it, or any way that I can help at all. So thank you very much indeed.
You don't get away that easy. Now it's time for our Q&A session. So are there any questions on the floor or in the virtual world?
Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So, well, thank you for that. I mean, you won't be surprised to hear, because I work in the same space, that I agree with pretty much everything you've said. The question I've got, though, is this. How do people know when they're getting it wrong? Because that's the trigger, isn't it, to call experts in to sort the mess out. But how do people know when they're not doing it right?
Do I need the mic?
Sue does.
Oh, Sue does.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think
it's personally from experience. I think it's just having that expert ear. And it generally crops up if there's a problem with the business that can be defined by either of what Sue and I do. But I think if through the discovery session or even through a chat, something often crops up that our experience and your experience would say that's a red flag, that you can clearly see a drop in the step or a problem. I would say I don't think there's anything particular that shows that they're doing it wrong. I just think it's probably down to experience and know-how and knowledge.
Oh, now, I think there's a distinction here, because you're talking about brand.
Yes.
And we would all agree, and the dress illustrated it very well 2 weeks ago, that we buy with our emotion and justify with our logic. So you're talking about the emotional gut feel response.
Absolutely,
to brand.
Yeah.
In terms of marketing and sales, because as I say, they're joined, it's usually very obvious. The leads aren't coming in. Sales are dropping. Profitability is dropping. We've just lost that opportunity. We couldn't close it. What went wrong? And usually when you're starting with, when you start off a business, you win business through people you know and referral, and you quite quickly run out of those. And people are nice to you in the early stages, and if you go out to family and friends, they'll say nice things to you. They won't really let on unless they're very close and very honest, they won't tell you what's going wrong, but you'll be symptoms in terms of your bottom line. So that's where I said about this definition piece, the symptoms of the pain. And it's also in the business owner feeling dreadful overwhelm I signed up to do my business. I didn't sign up to be a marketeer. And it's the same actually with all of the different functions in a business. I didn't sign up to be an HR person. I didn't sign up to be a legal advisor. I want to just do what I do best. And when you run a business, you find yourself doing it all and being a parent to everybody. So it's that breaking point. And if you're brave and you're working in the right circles, you start asking questions and sounding out. Is anyone else going through the same problems I'm going through? So it's a mixture of absolute physical symptoms of sales not working, business not working, profitability not working. It's the owner of the business or the senior team going, this doesn't feel right, and I'm really shattered and I don't know which way to turn. And it's also that gut feel which I was mentioning about, do you know what, I don't think our brand really reflects us anymore. I don't think it looks professional enough. So it's a mixture of all those, I would say.
Thank you. Any more? Can I borrow your microphone so that Sue can keep hers? Thank you.
You spoke earlier on about knowing your customer. I think you both referred to that about knowing your customer. If you have more than one customer community, you're not selling to the whole world, but you do have more than one customer community, and they're different. How does one go about not confusing by, you've got a single website, you've got a single business card, you've got a single ID. How does one go about not confusing the messaging if you've got two different communities, but you're still for the same service or product?
Again, it relates to where you are in terms of business growth. So in the early days, I would say pick one and focus on it. And I would analyse the customer base and say, who's going to be the best one for me at this stage? And in fact, when we're doing the profiling, for most businesses, if they've got more than 3, I think there's something going wrong, because you shouldn't have too many, unless you're a Microsoft or something where you might have lots. But I've done this exercise. So, we work with lots of people who are a mixture of product and service, and sometimes they're differentiated, or you get, we only supply, all of this is direct to consumer, and then this one is business to business, and there's this sort of, they need to be completely different. And I've gone through this exercise with one client where they were absolutely convinced they were different people. But when we got the team together, and we started to work through, so what's the driver for the people who are buying directly? It was insurance. What's the driver for people directly buying from you? And what's the driver for people who are buying for their business? And as we worked it through, we realised that it was the same entrepreneur in both seats. They just had different needs. So the marketing became simpler. And the other thing is that understanding your target market sufficiently to know where they lurk. So, that question, should I be on Facebook? Well, Facebook tends to have an older generational feel. It tends to be more social. So although you can do business through it. So the profile of the person looking on Facebook, we all put different hats on in our daily life. So the message to a person in Facebook is probably different to the message to a person who's predominantly using one of the other social media channels, or isn't even using social media at all in their professional life. So I would still, in that case, come back to which of these is actually going to be right and better for us in our business at this stage. Focus on that, get the process up and running and get it working properly, and then hand that over to somebody else. This is the job of an owner, is to extricate yourself from the business if you really want to, if you're serious about exiting. So, make sure you've got the right people in place managing that particular customer profile, and move to the other. And it doesn't stop you being flexible and turning away business at all. If an opportunity comes towards you, then absolutely consider it. But it just give yourselves a break and focus on one thing at a time and get it right. Does that answer your question, Phil?
It's actually told me what's wrong with my current position, so more than you might imagine.
Okay.
We'll have a conversation afterwards.
Okay.
It's a question for Sue. Actually, how do you know you get the right Bob? I mean, the target
that's a
customer.
lovely question, and I love you've used Bob as well. Now, there's a guy in Silicon Valley. I don't know if you come across a guy called Steve Blank, who's part of the Lean In Foundation, which are the Cheryl. Sandberg, thank you, from who's number 2 at Facebook, and that was one of the founders as well. And it's all about learning fast, fail fast. How do you set up a lean business? How do you get to profitability, right? And one of the things that Steve Blank said is, if you have any marketing budget at all, or limited marketing budget, spend it on customer discovery. So keep asking questions of your client base or your prospect base, because they keep changing, and they do. They don't always tell you the truth, so you do have to keep learning. So to get the right Bob, in the early days, when you're a startup, fundamentally it's guesswork. It's gut feel more than it is proper research, because you don't have enough data to go on. But as you're building your business, you need to get better at bringing that information to the fore and educating the whole of the business to ask questions. Because marketing and sales shouldn't just sit in the marketing and sales department. So I would urge people to keep asking questions. We forget in this digital age to pick up the phone and ask people. I ran a telemarketing company for a number of years, which was business to business, purely business to business. And I had big clients like Fujitsu, Microsoft. We sold all of Novartis flu vaccines for them in the UK for a number of years. Picking up the phone and having a conversation, you do it in the right way. So you ask for permission, you schedule a call and you ask for permission. But having a conversation with people, we used to do customer surveys. You send it out digitally, no one responds. You pick up the phone, you schedule a time, you have a conversation, not reading through a script. Oh my word, the stuff you can find out. So it's never finished, it's never straightforward, it's a constant learning process, but just keep asking questions. Okay.
Any other questions from the floor or the internet? No. Oh, of course it is, Wendy.
So I deal with a lot of pre-revenue companies who don't really, because they're not marketing to customers. But how significant is the work that you two do? How significant is marketing and branding when you don't actually have a customer, but you are trying to attract investors, partners, etc., etc.? What are your thoughts?
I think, from my personal view, I think that you need to attract full stop. From the get-go, you know, you start as you mean to go on. As soon as you get from a branding point, as soon as you've got your messaging, you've got your personality, you've got your brand character, you've got your brand visuals, that's when you need to go. But you need to make sure that you know your target market, and you also need to know yourself. You need to know what sort of business you are moving forward.
Yeah, I think in the early days you're bootstrapping. So you keep asking questions is the cheapest way to do it. But yeah, if you're going for significant investment, boy, your marketing should be really good. And there's some really great specialists out there, like, video for investment as well as the PowerPoint and that. There's lots of resource online, actually. If you just search on Google slide decks that have won investment, you'll find there's lots of really good stuff out there. And if you're bootstrapping, again, you can get something that looks pretty good if you go to Fiverr or Canva. That pre-revenue, sometimes they've got the funds to do it and to outsource, sometimes they haven't. It depends which investment they're going for. But yeah, it's still about communicating, attracting people toward you. So the same rules apply. And the other thing that people often say is, we get all our business through word of mouth and partners, and it's a similar situation. Actually, you still need to work at that. It still runs dry if you don't keep it going. And the partners that you're working with, getting that word of mouth, in the early days it might be quite easy, but boy does it get tough when you start doing it in scale. So I would say, yeah, I think it's about keep approaching the market in the same way as if you had the investment.
sorry to be the really boring lawyer in the room for a second, but before you start pulling off slide decks looking for investment, please talk to your advisor so that you are not doing things that you shouldn't be within the regulatory framework that we operate.
Very good point, Melon. Yeah.
So just great materials, but just be careful on what you put in them, please. Yeah. On that really dull note, I'm really sorry. Thank you for your input. Are there any more questions before we wrap up and head for the snacks? No, well, with that, thank you so much, both of you, for coming. Thank you for your great questions.
Thank you.
Thanks for your great questions.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.